Whoa, it is Fridays, and it's Bringing In with me, Jarod. And I'm here with Kerrs David Thorpe. How are you, sir?
I'm in a quiet household with spotty Wi-Fi right now. My kids are gone. They're back at school, so it's just me and you, my man.
How does it feel? I mean, it's second time now, right? The first last year when they left, it was like probably you were feeling it a different kind of way. But this time you're probably like, all right, glad to have my house back with me and my wife.
My wife said to me about a week before they both left, she said, is it wrong for me to be looking forward to just having two of us again? And I've always said that it's unfair to compare parents of twins to most other parents, because from the moment you bring them home, you just can't wait to get rid of them. It's just so overwhelming those first 6 months. You daydream of the day when they go to college. I'm not even joking about that. Of course, you love your kids. And really it's true. Like especially with the pandemic here last year, we're like, go live your life, people, and don't get us infected when you come home. No, this is, Randy put a comment in there. The truth is they both have their own apartment. My son had one last year too, but it was, he's with the team. My daughter's got her own apartment and they can live there full time now.
Yeah.
And so from now on, they're just visiting.
Yeah.
So we'll go see them. This is part of the life.
Mm-hmm.
Only a selfish parent thinks about how much they'll miss them before they think about how deserving they are to go live their life, right? I'm not a selfish parent. This is go live your life. So yeah, we're good. And we have phones. Exactly. We have WhatsApp. Like I'm in touch with them all the time, more so than I was with my parents. So yeah, I got no complaints.
That's right. And leave the love nest so me and my wife can get back to it. Thank you very much.
Exactly. We're watching whatever shows we want. I eat so much better when my wife just has to cook for us and not we as a big group. It's all pumping ice and ice cream right now.
Coach, we have 38 days till training camp start. And I'm like, God, listen, we love basketball, but I'm like, damn, can I have like another extra 30? Like, I feel like I need a little bit more time to relax. But be that as it may, here, you wrote an interesting piece that's out today on TrueHoop, so everybody should have already seen it. And it's about the stars of the future, right? Who are we going to be talking about in 2025, 2026? Who are those people that are going to be the, LeBrons, KDs, Stephs, James Hardens of that time? So let's talk a little bit about your piece.
Yeah, sure. So what I did is I tried to find guys that finished the season at 21 years of age or younger. And I did not include rookies. This rookie class looks like it's going to be very, very good. Maybe one of the better ones we've had in decades. That's how good the rookie class can be. Because quite frankly, and you and I talked about this, I think the last time we did a show, maybe on Monday, the league is loaded. Like there's so many good players. I could have written about a lot of guys. And so by looking at those that were 21 or younger to end the season, you start with Zion and Ja Morant, of course, right? I love those two together as they're sure things. I think Zion is the closest thing to Giannis that we've seen that's in the league. He is a brute force on offense. This is a startling statistic. 70% of his possessions that resulted in a shot were within 3 feet of the basket. 70%. Embiid was 21%. I wrote that. Think about that, right? And then he made 70% of those shots. So if you do the math, which is in this case, square the number, 49% of his possessions where he shoots it are layups. Come on now. I mean, no one does that. Yeah. And it's because he can attack from the perimeter, right?
Yes.
Whereas Embiid operates from the post and is blind to what's behind him and the help. Zion can see it coming and just maneuvers around people. So extraordinary, and he's not bad on defense. He can get better. I think he probably will get better this year on defense. He needs to. They need to get better on defense as a unit. And then Morant is fucking spectacular.
Yeah.
Like you were just talking about 38 days and these guys are back in camp, which means right after Labor Day is when people start coming back to their teams and start playing pickup and working out, whatever. They don't have to get back there, but they often do, especially young players. I don't take any break. I took a few days off last week and I'm just on Synergy. I was watching Synergy today. If you want to smile on a dark morning or you got a hurricane coming, those in the Northeast, go watch Synergy. Well, go watch YouTube if you have to of Ja Morant.
Yeah, excellent.
Wow,
excellent.
Just his athleticism, his ability to dominate. I mean, he killed the Jazz no one else on the Grizzlies did, but
Yes.
he did, and they're a great defense. He's fearless. I think I would love to see those guys team up. They both have to get their teams better. Morant's got to learn to shoot better, I think, being so small. Zion doesn't have to, again, like Giannis. But then I try to find some other guys that maybe people weren't thinking about could be real difference makers. So Tyrese Maxey to me is the guy that could be like Kyle Lowry. Yeah, I think Kyle obviously is. I mean, he's going to make $200+ million when he retires with his last deal that he signed for. I think Maxey has got even more upside. I don't think he'll likely be better than Kyle Lowry, but the upside's there. He plays similarly. He plays like a warrior. He's reckless in a good way. He's a better scorer than Kyle was at this age. I have a quote in there. I listened to Randy Foye. I mean, while the games were off after the finals, I listened to NBA radio, which I've never done, but I was jonesing for it. So I listened to Amin and Zach Harper most mornings for a little bit. And they had a Randy Foye interview on a former teammate. It's a long time ago, but he played with Kyle Villanova. And I think he must have been a year older because he was saying the team was like, why is this fucking freshman so confident? This little fat guy, right? Relatively speaking, he was. And I think that explains a lot about Lowry, his swagger. I think Maxey has that. And he ended up, he thought it'd be a top 10 pick. He was drafted 21. Lowry was drafted 24. I think Maxey can be one of those guys that's on a lot of winners. He's a long way from that now, to be clear. And then I mentioned RJ Barrett because RJ did something that you just don't see often, which is this best-in-class player. He was not just the best in his class in high school. He reclassified and was best in class there too, which is pretty incredible how young he was because he wanted to start his clock early, which is super smart by him. He was rated above Zion.
Yes.
Remember, they were freshmen together at Duke.
Yes.
Then Zion kind of overtook him. But RJ to be that level of a prospect and then to be able to learn to shoot as well as he shot last year is to me a sign of humility that you don't often see in a ranking of, he's Canadian, maybe that helps. It's just pretty rare for a guy that young to really lock in on shooting. And I think he's got a chance to be a special player because of that humility. And then the last guy I wrote about was Devin Vassell, who was a great college player at Florida State, but only averaged 12 points a game because of the way Florida State plays. And this summer, he did not score well in terms of efficiency, but he was very productive. And I think the Spurs see what I see, which is this guy is Reggie Miller. This guy can just get buckets. He had the weight. He's really long. Jarod, he's got a 6'10" wingspan on a 6'5" body, but he's really narrow. So I was telling Henry, in fact, I think he's going to ask me to write a piece about it. Yeah, there's his long arms right there. We're looking at him. When you're narrow shouldered and have a 6'10" wingspan and a 6'5" frame, your sleeves are even longer. Your fingers are longer. The wingspan's longer than you'd expect a typical guy that's 6'5" and that's wider frame. So I think that length, and he shoots the ball way above his head and it brings it back a little bit too. It's very hard to contest. He just doesn't make a lot, but he can get him off cleanly, and he's not selfish. And he's one of the best defenders in the league this year as a rookie. Well, maybe the best perimeter defender. He and Quickly, I don't know if Quickly was rated above him. There might have been one other guy above him, but I think he has a chance to be really good. And I think the Spurs know what they're doing, and I think he's going to be more featured this year. So those are the 5 guys I looked at. But obviously Trae Young and Luka, who are already 22.
Yep.
But there's some obvious guys. Tatum 23
and Jaylen Brown.
Come on. Yeah.
So it's interesting, Coach. You talk about this future of the league and these young guys, and you as someone, the godfather of player development. Well, in the summertime, right, which is when players get better, but there has to be a plan, right? You can't just go to the gym and just, all right, I'm going to shoot a million shots and do whatever. Like, what is your approach when you work with, let's say, one of these guys to how to make improvements? Because you're not going to improve the whole thing in one summer. So how do you break that down when you're working with young guys?
Well, you said some really insightful things right away. It's a mistake to think you can do it in one summer or 2 or 5. Like it's a trick, a skill or 2 every year. I think the mistake most guys make is they focus on a trick and not a skill. The step sideways, the step back, some kind of fancy dribble. I don't mind doing some of that. I tend not to do much of it because most players aren't allowed. If they do that in a game, they go to the bench. Now, you have to be a top 5 pick, or you have to have some kind of cachet to be allowed to miss those kind of shots, which is why I thought the Spurs were smart to let Devin take the shots he was taking this summer. They were not shots he took at Florida State or this year as a rookie for them. He averaged 5 points a game for the Spurs this year. So what we do always, no matter what position, is we double down on ball handling right away. I feel like if you look at any elite player, they've got to have great ball skills because it helps you get to better places on the court. Klay Thompson got lucky in that he's playing with Steph Curry and on that team, Draymond being facilitator, the Cuisinart. And in a lot of places, he would not have been nearly as good. That one trick he's got wouldn't be as useful. He's not a great ball handler. Wiggins never really got that ball handling done. Harden did. Durant did. These are different. That's a difference maker. So we do a lot of ball handling, and that's both to prevent turnovers or limit turnovers, but also kill your guy, beat your guy. So we do a lot of that. We definitely work on finishing a ton. Left foot, right hand, right foot, left hand, left foot, left hand, right foot, right hand, 2-foot finishes. These are all things we do. Scoops, floaters, right hand floaters, a right foot, right hand, left foot, left hand, and then opposite and 2-foot floaters. All those things have to be mixed in. When people are watching NBA, I promise you, those guys are doing all those things. They've got to do all those things. The most important thing, though, Jarod, which I think is mostly being failed by people coaching these guys, is they're not teaching the game. They're teaching a trick, or in the better case, is a skill. I would argue, I don't think I'm the best at this, but we definitely try to teach the game so that there's a context to learning this skill. So I'm always with my voice, and I don't talk a lot, and I tend to talk while they're working out. I don't like them standing and listening to me. I'm always trying to get them to understand why we're doing this. Here's where Rudy Gobert is on the court, right? Here's where Draymond Green is on the court. Or if it's a guard, here's where Kawhi is. If you make that crossover, those long-armed wings are knocking it away. You've got to get a little backwards. You got to get it below your knees. We're always creating scenarios. Or in many cases, if players are here during the playoffs, I'll watch a game at night and just bring something from that game into our gym the next day. Here's what happened. Let's drill this so they have context to what they're doing. I think eventually everyone will do that. Right now, it isn't the case. I don't think enough people who are coaching players really study the game. They're studying highlights. And so someone's talking about Scotty Barnes here. I don't know what happened with Scotty.
Signed a Nike deal.
Signed a Nike deal. So, yeah, smart by Nike. He's a very, very charismatic guy. So guys like Scotty are the rare player, and Devin Vassell, Coach Pop said this about Devin, they know how to play. So now they got to work on their skills. Most guys have the skills, don't know what to do. Play. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I try to make sure we do both.
So you do situational, right? So it's like, all right, okay, 2 minutes to go, whatever. This is Kawhi's on the block here. How are you going to get to this shot to get your point? So do you feel it's something I've always seen? We always see the mixtapes, right? We're getting close to the season now, but it's mixtape season, right? Where it's like we see the same thing all the time. So-and-so in the gym shooting threes, doing whatever. What do you, if there even is such a thing, is the ideal balance between drill work and guys who just constantly play pickup all summer? Like what's the balance for you?
So for the pro level, I would argue 0 games. 0 games. My guys, if they do it, they don't do it with me. 0 games. They play enough games. 82, as you know, and we complain about all the time.
Yes.
And lots of practice.
Yes.
Well, they don't practice a lot. When they practice, they tend to be playing.
Mm-hmm.
They're not really drilling like they do in high school and college. Before that, and this is the irony of the so-called godfather player development, I think kids don't play enough. So I definitely argued back when, in the 90s, when I was first building this business, I argued to parents, it's great that you want to bring them to me and pay me more. I could use the money, but they need to go play, because that's where you learn how to play. You figure shit out. And the balance, I don't know if it's 50-50, but it's pretty close. It's pretty close to, because you only have so many hours in the day anyway, especially in Florida where it's hot. Guys are playing outside a lot, but you for everything you're doing on the court in the driveway, you should be playing 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-3, 4-on-4, 5-on-5, I think. And at the pro level, these guys have played enough games to at that level where, especially, that's why Summer League is so important. You got reference points from Summer League, you got reference points from your rookie or second year. And so you should be able to take those reference points into the gym with you when you train. And you should be able to recreate in your mind. If I'm there, I'm going to do it for you. But even if I do it, I'll tell a great story that you'll appreciate. I have a lot of high school coaches you can imagine, before COVID would come and watch. The smart ones anyway. And they would bring their teams. I didn't mind. I didn't care if they filmed it. Just don't put it on. You won't see much of my stuff on social media. You see a lot of it everywhere else. I didn't want that on social media. The players have a right to train without me marketing myself. So, but 1 year I had he's one of the best coaches in Florida now. This was when he was much younger. He was watching me. I had like 9 or 10 guys in the court. And one of my guys was Kevin Martin, who supposedly was like my son. And his coach named Jason Vetter, he said to me, Coach, you and Kevin are really close, right? I said, yeah. I mean, Coach MC was a freshman in college. At this point, he's 28 years old and averaged 25 a game in the league, whatever. He said, well, why? He said, I hear you describing exactly what I'm to do. Why is he doing something different? Is he disrespecting you? Does he just not, you're not going to fight with him because you're friends? I said, no, he's playing the game. Like I created a scenario, but that dude's averaging 25 a game. The other 9 guys are like the first, second, third year players. They're lucky to average 12 a game. He's going up against LeBron and Kobe and those guys. And so he's taking what I gave him and then trying something different all the time. My rule is whatever you've done in games, you want to make sure you've done in practice first. So he was making sure that what Kobe and LeBron and those guys make him do in games, he has done in my gym first in practice. And that I value that very much, that I'm not a taskmaster that way. I always tell him. In fact, we had a guy in my gym this last week, Jarod, he made this fantastic, like shake and bake, inside out crossover, attack the rim, scored. And he's a young European player. His dad was here watching. And he was impressed. And the kid looked at me like, hey, I like that. I'm like, that was fucking terrible. And I think he thought I was kidding. And his name is Yali. I said, Yali, you were looking down the whole time. You play in a league in Spain where it's filled with 6'11" dudes from Mali. Can't be looking down. Right. 6'11" dudes from Mali ate that shit right off the board. This was a big league in Spain for 17-year-olds. Like, what are you doing? Like, you have to have your eyes up. First thing, where's the shot blocker? If you don't know where he is, just assume he's blocking your shot. Yep. Right. And I'm just there guiding, like, I have a rule. It's a dunk or it's off the board. There's no finger roll unless you're rolling it down like a sink like a faucet into a sink, which some of these really tall guys can do. Because you watch in the league, anyone listening, hear my voice right now. You're going to watch this year a player go for a layup. He's going to lay it over the rim beautifully, stylistically, and someone's going to come out of nowhere and swat in the stands. And maybe it'll be a goaltend, and maybe it won't be. I promise you there'll be some block shots. It's a dunk or it's a backboard, and that's it. Yeah, that's our rule. I
love it. And then when you said, you only let them you can only do things in games that you've done in practice, it always reminds me of that Patrick Ewing clip when he's coaching Georgetown. He's yelling at the kid, do you work on that shot in practice? No. So why are you doing it in the game?
Yeah, I love, I'm a big believer that we shouldn't only recruit former NBA players to be our coaches, but I'm not against them being our coaches. They've learned lessons that I have to learn from them. I've always said, I wrote this in my book, I've definitely learned way more from my players collectively than they've learned from me. The thing is, I have so many guys over the years, I can pick, okay, I learned this from you, but I'm going to go share with that dude. And that guy can teach me some and teach you. It's just how the game's supposed to work that way.
It's beautiful.
It's a hard game.
It's a hard game. And that's the thing, right? And it's a beautiful game. And there's so many intricacies to it that, again, which is why it's so wonderful if you're someone who listens to True Hoop, you get to hear Coach talk about this. There's so much beyond when you see the ball go in the basket. So many things have happened, right? That before they even got to the point for the shot to go in. And it's a beautiful thing to watch. Speaking of the beautiful game and us being 38 days away from training camp, we got some thoughts about who we think based on what happened in free agency so far. So as it stands today, who we like in the league. So I wanted to do something where we figured out who are our top 4 teams in each conference and why we like them. So I'll let you kick it off first, Coach. Let's go with the Eastern Conference. Your top 4 teams in the East.
I want to hear yours first. I talked enough. Let me hear your top 4.
So for me, top 4, it's Milwaukee and Brooklyn, 1A. And the reason I'm giving them 1A for Brooklyn, I'm not disrespecting Milwaukee winning the title. They won it, the champs. Like, there's nothing to fault them for. But I am still of the belief that those 3 dudes when they are healthy, are a monster to stop. And I still don't know what your answer is to stop them if they're all playing. So that's why I have them rated so well. After that, I think we go a step down. It isn't like, all right, those guys and then no. I think that after them, a little bit of gap in terms of, who else I think is like very good. I love Atlanta, coach. And it's not just because they went to the conference finals. Yes, that matters, but they're young. And, we talk about in your wonderful piece, as you get over 33, it's really hard to be best. Ain't nobody over 33 that plays a real heavy, prominent role on that team.
Gallo's the oldest at 32.
Right. And he comes off the bench. Yeah. So, I love it. You anticipate Trey getting a little better. DeAndre Hunter was hurt. You anticipate him getting better. Cam Reddish is healthy. Herter, my God. I mean, good Lord. And they have so much. John Collins. I mean, it's just, I love it. And the young rookie, big man off the bench. Can't think of his name right now. And he played like really good minutes. Okonwo. Yeah. I mean, I love this team. Now, it could be a situation where, things get weird. You go to the conference finals the year before, and this year weird shit happens, and I don't know, and guys get too full of themselves, and who knows? I think with Nate, there's probably not going to happen.
They got the perfect coach,
right? That's probably not going to happen because it's going to tell them how shitty they are, and they need to get better. So and then I'm going to go Philly as my 4. And this is no disrespect to Miami or Boston. I need to see it in Miami first because I don't know. And Boston, look, I love Tatum and Brown, but after that, all right, like, what else? So those are my top.
Well, I mean, that's why I had you go first because there's nothing different that I would say. I think I like Milwaukee better now than I did even when they were winning the championship. I actually think they can be better this year, and I think they'll be hungry to win more. Tom Brady the other day, I only saw the headline, but he was doing some press conference here in Tampa. And he said, this team's done nothing yet. And I just love that. I don't follow football very closely, but I know Tom Brady's won a lot. He's, I guess, the best quarterback. Right. So that dude to say we've won nothing, coming from him, it means something. I hope Bud posted that in the Milwaukee team chat, like we got one. Great. Don't get me wrong. Great. But let's go. Right? If they can be better this year. And with Brooklyn, it's whether or not the answer to your question is no one can stop them. We already talked about a walking bucket. The definition of a walking bucket is Kevin Durant. As long as he can walk, he can get a bucket. That's valuable,
very valuable
in the postseason. And then they have Harden. So, and they're not 37; they're early 30s. So I don't project health for all 3 of them. I don't know that they have to be all healthy. 2 might be enough. They have other talent. They've got good young players, and I think Steve Kerr should be much better. Who do they use? Who do they replace D'Antoni with, Jarod?
That's a good question. God, it's tip of my tongue. They picked up Devin. I know you're our Google. Can you pick up who? I know he added another assistant to his staff to replace D'Antoni.
D'Antoni's in New Orleans, I think now. Right?
Yeah, which I think Steve has an understanding of what he wants to do offensively, and as he says all the time when talking to him about the team, it's Brian Keefe is there. Yeah, it's conceptual, right? Like those 3 dudes, especially with Harden as the chef stirring the pot, they know what they're going to do on offense. Who's going to cut? Who's going to go where? They're fine. They should. What I liked about them in the postseason, they showed they can when it's time to guard. They showed they know how to guard.
I'm going to be more specific though. I don't think they can lock you down.
No,
but I don't think that they need to.
No,
and their offense, it was the best of all time this year, and they weren't even close to being healthy, and it was a COVID year. They can be scary good this year with some young guys also that they'll need. And we talked before about sitting them out some games, the veteran guys. So I've got. I'm just going to say this about Atlanta. I agree with everything you said. They are my focus for my my first article by teams next year. That's all I'm going to say. I'm high on them too.
They're so good.
Yeah. I don't want to say anything more because I'm going to write it this week. I just talked to Henry this morning.
All right.
I was telling Henry what I thought about Atlanta yesterday. Not at all thinking I'm the worst guy ever coming up with ideas for stuff. I just talked to Henry like, oh, that's an idea. Okay. I never think of it that way. So he said to me, like, David, you should be writing this. I'm like, okay, that's what I'll do. So, and I think you're right on Miami, but I'm not sure that isn't the same with Philly.
Yeah, it's true.
Because I've yet to talk to a single person who roots for the Sixers or hangs out with people who root for the Sixers. Include like national podcasts who think that Ben Simmons is going to play game one.
Doesn't look likely.
They're saying he can't. They're saying like the fans will go crazy. And so this is just me talking out loud, but Jarod, there is a risk for Daryl Morey to trot Ben Simmons, Daryl Morey and Doc Rivers to trot Ben out in game one and have him go 0 for 5 in the first half, and the boos rain down upon him, and the value goes down again. So I think you need to trade him before. Now, I trust Daryl Morey as a GM completely to do a hell of a deal, whatever that deal would look like. I think that they'll be better no matter what. They may not be better day one. Ben Simmons is, I was watching Sixers tape today, actually, for this exact reason. Like, what a joy it is to play with that dude. Talk about a guy. I told someone today, I told a Jazz fan today, he's the opposite of Jordan Clarkson. He is looking to get you the ball all the time. Not so great in the postseason when he should be dunking it, but man, who wouldn't love to play with that dude? So that's going to be hard to replace. I posited yesterday a deal with the Jazz where Simmons and maybe Shake Milton, I don't know who the other guy would be, goes to Utah, and they get Joe Ingles and Mike Conley, two brilliant playmakers, shooters, clearly not as good for the Sixers over the course of years, but for 2 years, I don't know that if they did that deal and they can keep Ty Buell, who's an obviously defensive monster, and everyone else really, I think Philly might be the best team in the East, right there with the other two. Nothing against Milwaukee, but they're right there with Milwaukee and Brooklyn if they did a deal like that. Dame Lillard, people are talking about, they're right there too. If they can't even get that done, Jarod, and it's a step down lower, or if Ben stays and it's a mess, then Miami is, I think Miami's going to be really good. They're not the level of Brooklyn and Atlanta probably, or Milwaukee.
What Miami's going to be able to do is why I like them. I said, have them below is defense. They're going to be able to guard the out of people, right? They will guard your butts up. What I worry about Miami is, will they be able to score enough, right? Like, because I love Duncan, like Jimmy, but is there enough shooting around there, right, to really spread that out? And when you lock in come postseason,
Tyler Hero has to be better.
He does. He does. He will for sure have to be better. And then we'll see how the Knicks and Boston and how those teams, how they come along, right? Chicago, look, they went all in, as we talked about, right? Because as much as they could with what they have, is that enough to make the playoffs? We'll find out. And we like what we see about the young guys in Cleveland. All right, let's move out west. The West was tougher, Coach, because I don't know who's going to play, who's healthy, who's not. So I'm just going off basically who I know is playing, and it's still trepidatious. I'm gonna say Lakers, but I don't want to. I want to say Phoenix, so forget it. I'm gonna say Phoenix. I'm gonna give them the respect they deserve of going to the NBA Finals. I'm gonna say Phoenix 1, Lakers 2, Clippers. Kawhi's not playing, so I have no idea. Utah, I'm gonna put Utah up there, and then I'm gonna say Denver. But Jamal Murray's not playing. And I think, Judy, we got to tag Henry in because Coach is frozen. Hello, Bueller. Oh, there's it. I'm like, Bueller. Anyone?
That's amazing. I'm furiously taking notes for the little highlights that we're going to make. And then suddenly I'm like, oh, God, I got it. I'm on the show. Hi, Jarod. How are you?
I'm lovely, Henry. How are you?
Great.
But Western Conference, though, I'm literally stumped with the West because I don't know who's playing. Like, I don't want to bet on the Lakers because they're old and injury prone. Phoenix, I mean, look, Chris is also old, and that was a hell of a run. He just got into the finals. Can he duplicate that again? Maybe.
Yeah,
Denver's hurt.
So I'm the biggest fan. I'm not myself the biggest fan of Owen Wilson of the F5,
yes,
the Substack newsletter. Mm-hmm. The way my brain works, and I like to learn stuff, he's like dreaming up things I never imagined. I'm like, oh, I learned a new thing. So I emailed him unsolicited 3 ideas for like cool charts you can make in the future. And one of them is like, how many games is right to expect from an all-star? Like, It's not 82. Right. So I feel stupid, as you're saying, like, I feel stupid being like, oh, well, they got LeBron,
Right.
they got Russ, they got AD. It's like, how many do they have? Like, I don't like, what's the right number to expect? Is it 66? Is it 55? Like, I don't want to project anybody's injury.
No, I'm not projecting injury. No, I'm not doing that.
82 is wrong. It's not the right projection.
No, no.
And when they're old, and also like, not just how many games will they play, how many will they play well?
Right.
Like,
And look, and I don't, and Anthony Davis for his entire career has only played a full season, what, twice? I mean,
he's like David's Wi-Fi.
I mean, something happens every year, and we know the best predictor of future injury is previous injury. Well, so pencil him in for what? Missing 20 at least this year? All right. Like, so that's what makes me trepidatious about the Lakers. Yeah, if everybody, sure, but I don't know the if there. No Murray for Denver is big to me, but if Michael Porter Jr., has another leap that can mask some of that. Dallas, I don't know that they've done enough around Luka to be better than what they've been. I think, look, he's so good that he can beat with him on that team, they can beat anyone in a 7-game series. Like, that's how confident I am in his skills. But is the way that team currently constructed good enough for Luka to do that 4 times to win an NBA title? Probably not.
David, you want to give your Wi-Fi shot?
Yeah. Sorry about that. So I heard everything Jarod was saying. You guys just couldn't hear me. And yes, I'm very familiar with Gulliver Prep. That's where Ray Allen's going. It's in my brother used to live across the street from the school there. Judy probably knows Gulliver Prep well. It's a great school in Miami. The Lakers, I think, have a great chance to be the 1 seed in the West in the regular season. I think there's going to be a much bigger problem in the postseason. I think it's going to get wonky with Russ as it has before in the postseason. But in the regular season, I like a lot of the guys they added. I think they've done a great job after the Russ trade. I would not have recommended the Russ trade, but his force of will, like when he came around in Washington, like they were solid. In fact, they were good. They were a top 10 team in the league, I think, by some metrics once they really got rolling. Pretty amazing. I think his force of will carries weight. That competitive nature carries weight. LeBron and AD, I think they'll guard. I think Vogel has proven he can really get guys to guard. That matters. I just think it's going to be problematic come postseason. They would not be my pick to win the West in the postseason as of now. The Clippers, do we know about Kawhi at all?
I mean, if we see him before March, I think that'll be a miracle.
Right.
So I don't think
that's going to be a problem. I think you were smart to say the Suns. It seems like they're just by plus elimination. They're the one team that looks pretty strong. I like Denver a lot. Even without Jamal, I don't love their coach. I love their roster, and I love Jokic and MPJ, who you love so much. You can't miss how improved he got defensively. I mean, he's
not lost on defense.
So, yeah, not nearly as lost. No, he's terrible. That counts for something when Jokic is on your team. I mean, that's a terrifying matchup, those two guys. So, and they got Bones Highland, who probably won't do much as a rookie.
Wait, David, but he was great. Is it maybe
not
not the worst for MPJ's development to have a star out for a while?
Right. He may go Jason Tatum this year.
Yeah.
He wants to go Jason Tatum this year. Let's be clear.
Jarod likes that.
Like, he wants to.
Right? Michael Porter Jr. always wants to score the basketball.
Right.
Yeah,
so Henry, of course you're right. Like, yeah, this guy, he's going to be an all-star.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, he's gonna have more shots. The Warriors are very intriguing.
I didn't mention them yet, but yeah,
very intriguing to me. I was looking at them this morning. I mean, we know what Steph Curry is. I don't know about Clay. Jordan Poole got a lot better for them. A lot better. I think Steve Kerr has even talked about it. It's a shame. Wiseman looks like he'll be back for training camp.
Thank God.
Yeah, so I don't know if they'll feel like they have to start him. Wiggins made some progress last year. They've made some good. I think they've got a couple of free agent guys that look like they'll be better this year. They'll be deeper this year. Not likely I don't know that I would call them a contender absent a big deal. But what if they get Ben Simmons? I don't know. Like, I'm not that the team we see now is not going to be the team we see come February.
I have an absurd question for you.
Yeah.
So let's say the Warriors are in the first round of the playoffs. How many combined minutes in like a typical playoff game do Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, and James Wiseman get?
Yeah, very little. I loved Kuminga, and Moody was good. I don't love Moody, but he played well. I like Moody. I loved Kuminga. I thought he probably should have gone top 3. Now, like I probably have Mobley, Barnes, and Kuminga as my best 3 guys. Not even Jalen Green. A high level scoring 2s. They don't move the needle for me these days.
Okay,
I love it.
So yeah, Weissman is the one wild card. How healthy is he after what do you have?
Yep.
Meniscus, not ACL. Is that right?
Yep.
So that could be a better return, especially if he's back for training camp.
His development's so stunted, like he just hasn't played enough, and it's
probably going to be year 3 for him. You're like Aiden, right? Like Aiden, but you never know. And if they use him, people talk about reference points. So I talk about reference all the time. Players get reference points from their success and failures, but so do coaching staffs. So I think, and I wrote about this the day before Weissman got hurt, the coaches should do a better job of how to deal with Weissman after having coached him for so long. Just like Phoenix did with Aiden. They narrowed his focus. They made the game simpler for Aiden, and he exploded. They got to do that for Weissman too.
Well, I
Keep
think
it simple. And then I wonder, guys, if Draymond winning the Olympics again and playing such a pivotal role, he really was very good for them coming off the bench. I wonder if that's going to spark him up a little bit to have a better year. He's got to shoot.
He does, and I think he will. I think he will. He's found some motivation. It's funny we're going to talk about Draymond in a minute, but I want to add something you said, Coach, about the Warriors and coaches and point of reference. What they've also done is reshape their coaching staff, right? So they've got more of a little bit of a player development angle with Kenny Atkinson being lead assistant over there now, because now that's what Kenny was famous for in Brooklyn, right? Getting Joe Harris, Spencer Dinwiddie, right? And those guys to sort of like really, really develop. So is he going to be able to spend time with Wiseman and Kuminga and Moody and really get those guys better? So you have like you're doing the 2 things at once. We're going to develop these guys at the same time, but also we got Steph Curry, Clay coming back, and Draymond Green. We think we can still compete if all things go well, right? So I think they're trying to do both at the same time.
Let's just add one more thing. When you talk about those 3, Wiseman, Kuminga, and Moody, we wrote about this, Henry. No, I wrote about it, but I did a podcast with Chad where I had them taking Josh Gidey and not Moses Moody. Well, Gidey went number 6, so he couldn't go number 13 or 14, whenever he went 13 or 14. But so you've got potentially your franchise center, you've got your franchise apex predator wing, and you've got Moody can be an amazing shooter, and he's got size. So as the Warriors age out of the Curry era, and he'll still be around for some of their years, like in 2025, Curry will still be playing. He'll be old, but he'll still be playing. You've got 3 potential monster players. So good job. Golden State's got to develop them, but that's why they're going to play a development route. Is they better not short those. All 3 should be in the G League side. Like fucking play, come back and forth, play varsity, play JV, play, get better, because that's their future.
But if you're Bob Myers and let's say they're starting to do that and whatever, and Golden State's looking good, and Washington says, all right, you know what, Bradley, we're going to get rid of Bradley Beal, but give us these young guys. You still move them to get Bradley to make your push for the title?
I wouldn't, but I'm sure everyone else would. I just look at it differently, and that's why I'm not a GM. I would not go all in on the off chance you might win one more title. When the East is loaded, the West isn't as loaded, but you still got to get by who you got to get by. I like having it. I want a good lottery ticket every year, right? Give luck a chance to happen every year. I don't want to just go all in and then suck for 5 years.
I'm with you.
That's why I would do it anyway. But I'm sure.
Could you have Draymond and Ben Simmons?
Yeah, you could. It's challenging for sure.
At least.
I mean, yeah. Well, because they're both such gifted passers.
So good.
I mean, I wasn't lying. At 8 o'clock this morning, I was watching Simmons tape just to remind myself of who he was, as I'm going to be talking more probably about trades, right? This guy, he sees everything. He guards everything. He can't shoot, which means he doesn't shoot, which from the regular season is great. And so the problem will be in the postseason. How do you best play him and Draymond together? You have to juggle the lineup some when they're not both in the court at the same time. But You got to treat Simmons as a 5, and you better hope Draymond can shoot.
They'd be a hell of a defense. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Jesus
Joke.
Christmas. Good. The switching over there, like, good luck with that.
Joke.
Like,
and if Clay can come back in the post, because he doesn't guard in the regular season, Clay guards in the postseason, that's 3 really special defenders.
But it makes more sense to not have both, right? I mean, if you're going to give up something for Simmons, it's in some imagination, it's probably better if it's Draymond, right?
So yes, one of the arguments I think Henry would be, well, we're losing these 3 studs, but we're going to get Simmons. We have him back to being an all-star. He already is an all-star, an all-NBA player, and then go get more players, whether they're young or not. If they could do a deal, I'm not sure. I don't think they necessarily want to, but at some point, Ben becomes a value play as a trade. Like, you may not have to trade all. Well, first of all, can't be all 3 of them only. There's not enough money. You got to have some other guys too. But yeah, if you can get them on a steal, Daryl's shrewder than that. It would have to get ugly. This is the challenge. That's what I said before. If you play Ben Simmons, Henry's the first guy to tell me about that Philly guys. I've since talked to a few. They cannot imagine a world where Ben Simmons is in a Sixers jersey on day 1, right?
I don't think. I mean, yeah, I'm not a market researcher here, but as someone who lives within the sort of zone of Sixers commentary,
are you saying season tickets might start plummeting and asking for refunds?
Josh Harris fired Sam Hinkie because his kids were getting bullied verbally in elementary school.
That's one of the stories we heard.
What's going to happen now?
Yeah.
What's going to happen now?
Oh,
yeah, it's not it's not going to be cool, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Daryl's the guy who'll do it. Daryl's, been accused of being a little machine-like with his emotions, right? I don't think he's so worried about what you think about him, right? Which is in a way a gift, but in the long run, I don't think that they really feel. I think these reports that they're willing to have him come back are leaks to improve Ben Simmons.
Yep,
value,
for sure,
and nothing else.
100%. I'm with you on that. Let's stay talking about Draymond though, because he's an interesting guy. He had a little sit down on his YouTube Bleacher Report show with one Kevin Durant, and it was a fascinating interview. I encourage everybody to go watch the whole interview. Draymond, as everybody says, is very good at this and will be taking everyone's job in media as soon as he's done playing, because he's very good at this. And there's a way in which he asks questions directly and get direct answers. Right now, part of that is because he's a peer. He's a friend of Kevin Durant's, right? And there's a way in which athletes talk to their peers in a much different manner than they talk to us, right? Okay, that's one thing. The other thing that's running crazy is that all the aggregating headlines, Kevin and Draymond blame Bob Myers and Steve Kerr for breaking up the Warriors. And it's like, okay, sure. I mean, if that's what you pulled from it, that's fine. That isn't what I pulled from it. What I saw there and what I thought was interesting was that blow up against the Clippers was a result of what Bob and Steve allow from Draymond Green, right? The gift and the curse of Draymond is you need that player that plays up against the edge and is really fiery, and because you need that at all teams. That's how you win. The downside is that sometimes they go over the edge, right? And it's just, but that's the tax you pay for allowing them to do that. We saw it happen before Kevin Durant was even a member of the Warriors. That famous game where they came back against Oklahoma City. Police had to be called into the locker room because Draymond had to be restrained for going after Steve Kerr and was MFing him up and down the place. Well, if Steve Kerr is ostensibly the boss and you're MFing him and having to be held back by teammates and the cops are being called in, Kevin Durant's not a boss. I'm certainly going to mother F him or do whatever on the court because you've allowed that to happen. That is what you said was okay when, as part of the bargain for having me, Draymond, here. So when those two talked about it and saying, that's something that we would have to work out, like them forcing you to apologize, like that wasn't going to work. And I thought the way to carry it at the end was when Draymond asked Kevin later in the interview, of all the teammates you had, who goes over the line the most? He's like, Draymond Green, by far, right? Like directly said you. And Draymond was like, yeah, well, that's the tax for me, right? You get that. I don't know. What'd you guys think of the interview?
Right. I had so many thoughts. I'm only halfway through. I was actually watching it before the show started, but I love this part. I agree with everything you said, Jarod. And there's a part where I think KD is amazing in his analysis, where just like I forget exactly. Basically, we're all there are too many people trying to get into the room. Like we're elbowing each other out, trying to get into a tiny space. There's just not enough room for everybody. And so, of course, there are people who go too far. We all go too far and elbowing people out, right? And A plus, like that's what's happening, right? And as you mentioned, Draymond's the one who just goes like too far all the time. And also, by the way, like Draymond's like, oh well, we both grew up as the tallest guys. And so they made us play center, like, and Katie's like, you're not that tall.
Wait, so a 6'6" guy, you're not even that big. I'm sorry, what? You like 6'6".
But I also had a little bit of a thought about like, KD's a great interview when Draymond's asking him the questions because KD loves Draymond, right? Like that doesn't mean Draymond's particularly good at asking the questions. It means the trust is there. Like, this is the crisis of the media industry, right? Is like, can I make you feel safe that I will take your answers responsibly and create an environment where they're welcome, right? And Draymond's got a big advantage in that he worked with the dude, right? But I hope Draymond's in the media forever. That'd be really fun. But it's a real job too. This job we have is a real job. And like we don't have this, but we need this. I would like each of us to have like a little score after our bylines, like, Jarod Hector, 99% accurate over time, right? Because like the problem with celebrities in the media role is that they're buddies and they don't have to actually do the job. Like they're criticizing Steve Kerr and Bob Myers, who had the job of winning championships and dealing with every little stress that comes up and did it. And they're criticizing one thing, right? Like this media job, you got to do every part of it to be accurate over time. And like, I don't know if Draymond's good at that or not. I don't even know if this is what happened with Steve Kerr. I assume it was, but like other people might have different opinions, right? Which didn't hear, right? We're not going to anyway. So I feel like there's this kind of, getting a good moment out of Kevin Durant is a huge part of the job and might not get us anywhere near the truth, or it might get us super close to the truth. We don't know. We still don't know. And I think that's like there's something in there I'm a little worried about if we hand off the job to like celebrity.
Yeah, basically. No, I'm with you. The one thing I do think that I believe Draymond mother F Bob Myers and Steve Kerr to their face. Like I believe that happened.
Why would you lie about it?
Right. I'm like, he seems like the type that, yep, I did that, and I'm gonna tell you I did that. I'm like, all right, cool. I get it.
I'm gonna throw two quick things. One on Draymond. When they were trying to win all those games in year 2 after they won their first title, we did a thing at ESPN where we, should they go after the greatest record ever? And I think there were 2 of us that said no, just win a championship. I was one of those 2, and I got roundly criticized by really smart people at ESPN, fairly and in a friendly way. Like, what are you talking about? You got to go for the whole thing. And I'm like, no, rings are good enough, I thought. But I never understood why they went after it. And then someone reported it, and then I talked to someone too. Draymond was the one saying, fuck everyone, we're going to win everything. And he has such a cult of personality that Bob and Steve, who I don't think wanted to do it, said, okay. And I get it. I get that, someone's got, if players have empowerment, well, someone has to give them the power. It doesn't, if there's not a vacuum of nothing, they gave more power to him. And now he's biting the hand that feeds him. That's old news, right? So they gave him the power to do all the things that he's done, to your point, Jarod, and they're mad. Well, when is that surprising? I remember one time I went to Grant Hill's charity fundraiser at Duke. First time I ever went to Cameron Indoor and all of that. Afterwards, they threw a nice little party, all these famous Duke, I'm not going to say their names, but you would know all of them. And they're all talking about their Duke stories. Very cool thing. And I'm with a collection of some pretty famous guys. And they told me a story. I told this before to Henry, where one year they were so upset with Coach K, who to a man they revered as professional athletes. And the way they ended every nighttime team-only meeting, no coaches, was 1, 2, 3, hands in, 1, 2, 3, fuck Coach K. Okay? Yeah, I told Caleb before. This is the workers always are upset with management. And I think, and I asked you, Jarod, before the show, how do you think this is going to go in State? And you, I thought, smartly said, yeah, it'll be fine. Like Steve Kerr and Bob Myers have done this before. They understand. And again, they know what they get with Draymond. He would not be in the NBA if he didn't play this way. And the football players have the same problem sometimes. They have to bring so much intensity and power to the game. They've struggled to balance it off the field. And Draymond's one of those guys. He seemed to balance it just fine, more or less. We hear stories of a couple things here and there, but he's an amazing teammate. And on the court, you can't ask for a guy that is more of a wee guy than Draymond. He won't fucking shoot. But yeah, he's upset with management. Join the club.
Steve Kerr had Michael Jordan and Dennis Rodman as teammates. I'm sure he's fine with this. I'm sure he's like whatever.
There's not like I think they won who sings that song? Keep it loose, keep it tight. Do you know what I'm talking about?
We're getting some Bring It In After Dark. I don't know what this is.
So it's basically like to keep the lights on, you got to keep it loose and you got to keep it tight. And I think it's right. Like you have to let Draymond be Draymond or you don't win the championship. Right. You have to let KD be KD. Amos Lee, thank you, Devin. Devin, this is some clutch
nice
work right
work,
here.
Devin.
This might be your finest. But so you don't win a championship without a lot of freedom and air to breathe, right? But at the same time, there are certain points you get to make us, you have to hammer, right? Everyone has to get on the plane, literally. Right?
We can't leave.
And Draymond had to not get so many technicals, right? I mean, that, like this kind of stuff, you have to you can't just be free on every point and still be a team.
Did Durant chose, they offered him everything. He chose to go to Brooklyn. Yeah. Is he saying it was because of Kerr and Myers?
No, not at all.
Okay. So that headline's just wrong.
Yeah, it's just that's what's in the NBA Twitter zeitgeist, because for whatever reason, how many years later is this now? 3? That's still the conversation. Oh, why did Kevin Durant? It's like, who cares? It's over now.
He made his decision, whatever.
Right.
Well, they said at the time of this Clippers blow up, the management confronted Draymond and said, you have to apologize. And he said he wouldn't. And then he came back the next morning and they said, are you ready to apologize now? And he said, no. And then they said, we're suspending you. And he laughed in their face. And he said, you guys are going to ruin this. You're going to blow up this team. And KD said, I agree. So, exactly what was underneath that and what the point of it was, hard to say. But that's what the headlines are born of.
I think, look, he wanted to come back and try to three-peat, as he said, because three-peating is so rare. And who's the last team to three-peat? The Lakers in 2001, 2002, right? That was the last one, I think. It's just hard to do that, right? It's very hard. But it didn't work out. But Draymond said, hey, Kay, you ever think about if you stay, we would have won 5 more chips, whatever, things would have been great. He was like, nah. He's like, we would have won this year if everybody was healthy. So I feel like, because Draymond was like, I've been getting my ass kicked since you left. He's like, yeah, I'm good. So I think,
business.
Right. Durant's like, we did our time. We won our chips. I'm good. I got this new thing now. I'm fine.
I think
it's all good.
I think Katie's right, by the way. I think they would have won. Yeah.
I
think
agree.
They would have won a championship. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. I think they would beat Phoenix.
And there's one other thing that occurred to me is every job is available. These two men, if they put their minds to it, could have Steve Kerr's job, Bob Myers' job, Rachel Nichols' job, all the jobs, right? Adam Silver's job, this isn't player empowerment. This is just these are fully empowered men, right? And so this is the dipping your toe in to different jobs phase is fun. It's not fun when you have Steve Kerr's job. Right? So it's a lot of, I'm excited that this generation of players has this degree of opportunity and freedom and real freedom, control over their daily lives where they can just do whatever the hell they want. This is a wonderful sort of winding up of a racist period of NBA, right? But what do you want to do? It matters. What do you want? I think they're not easy questions for any of us to answer, right? What do you want to put in your 10,000 hours on, right? It's not going to be playing in the NBA for much longer, right? It's going to be the next thing, and it could be any of those jobs or some other thing too. It could be a tech investor, it could be a bunch of stuff, but I don't think you're going to feel a lot of pride and reward in your life if it's something you just dip your toe in and kind of visit and then shuffle off.
I think that's so right. And the things that you said, because I think in that whole interview, Draymond asked Kevin, he's like, you don't have any kids, he has no serious relationship. He did get engaged once, call that off. He's like, no, I wanted to be really good at basketball, right? And and we know, we talk about this all the time on this show. He is the kind of person who wakes up out of bed before he even brushes his teeth. I bet he's got a basketball or something in his hand rolled up and he's shooting back, because that's just what this dude does. So that is his 10,000 hours. Or at this page, it's probably 10,000 with an exponent at the top. I don't even know how many more.
Yeah.
how many things do you think you can do in life where you put that much time into it? It's okay. When his career ends, whenever it is, what's the next thing that you think he physically has the capacity and mentally to put in another 10,000 square root hours into something? I feel like you probably got one of those in your life, right? And then that's it. You're tapped.
But the good news is if he puts like half that into tech investing, like,
it'll be a billionaire.
You know, like
he loves. I mean, all these guys love to play. It's just so obvious. But when this guy goes to the Olympics, to live in a hotel room in a bubble, no fans, there's just that's an addiction. I don't mean that in a bad way. I have a hard time believing he's not going to run a team one day. He may not like it. He may not last long doing it. And maybe he'll do it as an owner like Dwayne Wade. These guys don't have to put a lot of money in to get a team because they're getting a discount because of who they are, what they bring. So I just see KD. I think he's going to be around the game for a long time.
Don't you like, I don't know KD, but like, don't you just wish he had like a dog? Or just like, like you know what I mean? Like, something that brought him joy. You know?
But here's the thing. I honestly believe, even though we don't get the outward smiling, I think being good at basketball does bring him joy. It's just, you don't see the physical manifestation of it. Like, he's not smiling all the time when he's doing it, but I think he loves that.
Well, like, you know, or like mental health is like, you know, like described in some book I heard, like it's a fabric. You want to weave, like, I have tethers to like all these different meaningful things in my life, right? Like
what are the tethers for him?
Big rope.
He's got one. Yes.
They cut that rope.
Oh, bad.
Here's something I thought of with KD in the Olympics. Long time ago in the 90s, I coached like an all-star team, AAU kind of thing, and we rolled through the pool play. And I was super positive, Ted Lasso, typical David Thorpe back then, really loving fun. We were the 1 seed, and it was the first time at a high-level event. This was an AAU national championship. I felt pressure as the 1 seed, and I realized I started coaching like a jackass. Like when I was 22, that's how I coached. I was loving, but I was also yelling. Yeah, right. Ted Jackass. So yeah, Ted Jackass, what I call it. And I didn't handle it well. And then at halftime of our first game, I realized, what am I doing? Like, I'm not having fun. These guys aren't fun, and we suck. And we ended up winning a national championship. It was great. I thought about that when I watched Kevin Durant. He's better than Luka. I love Luka. Kevin Durant is another level in terms of what he's accomplished and what he can do right now. And he's playing with a bunch of guys that aren't NBA players. I don't mean on his team, the other teams. It's not like he can say, well, we lost, but they're all great players. No, there was a couple of NBA players in most of the games they played. What enormous pressure he should have felt, and you would never have known it. That dude was balling. There's something graceful. There's something really graceful about an athlete who can perform like that. And Steve Kerr's talked about this. He can always get a shot off anytime, and you always expect it to go in, but he doesn't. He actually still plays Wii basketball all the time. Durant does. We'll never see anyone like him again. And that's one reason why, Henry, it's so hard to figure him out. He is as unique a player as there's ever been in any sport ever.
I think there's something interesting.
Never seen him like it before.
He said in that interview too, where he's like, I don't chase happiness. He's like, I want like this peaceful sort of like even keel state like that. Like that's the, because Draymond was like, oh, but nah, I don't even want that. I just want to be metronoming, right? Just floating through, observing everything around me. I'm like, what? He's a very fascinating guy. And I think that's one of the big takeaways, right? Is that he doesn't fit an archetype for us. Someone this good at basketball, we expect them to be a certain way. And for whatever reason, he just isn't, right? And that, I think, is the mystery. It was like, oh, more. What's there? Anyway.
That was fascinating. There's something about the NBA environment is such a buzzsaw of emotions that like you often find people talking almost like they're in a Buddhist retreat center. Yeah. Right? Like, and for me, the visiting the NBA is like the place where I most get jacked up emotionally, and like the most opposite of a Buddhist retreat center. But at the same time, people talk like that with like, no, just smooth waters,
get off
not
the
too high, not too low, not even
get off the roller coaster, get on the merry-go-round.
Yeah,
as I always say, find joy in the merry-go-round. Yeah, maybe that's why I invested in the marijuana company.
Not totally unrelated.
He's doing what Henry said. Well, I mean, he also is an avid cannabis partaker, shall we say? That's known. Schedule's going to be out, released today, guys. We saw the Christmas Day games are out. I think guessed like all the right teams. We didn't guess the right matchups, but we were right there. And then opening week schedule.
Oh, it is?
All fantastic stuff.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh,
I didn't see opening week.
You heard it here first.
You heard it here first. I'll give you Christmas really quick. Knicks Hawks at 12, Sixers Bucks at 2:30, Suns Warriors at 5, Lakers Nets at 8, and Dallas and Utah at 10.
And I was totally wrong about
that
the Pelicans.
Yeah, we thought.
I would have thought Pelicans for sure.
Yeah.
They want to push the Zion thing, but
Yeah.
Legal.
Judy's coming legal. Everyone have an awesome weekend. We will see you guys next week. Be safe. Take care.